Um,
Good morning.
Morning. Setup's a little bit different today. Apple deprecated my laptop, so I've had to figure out new ways to stream and be here for this call. But we're here.
We're here. So, a tribute to your abilities and skills to adapt and overcome.
Well, the ironic thing is that technology is the easy part for me. So
Wow.
when it breaks for me, you know it's really broken.
Right.
But I found all my tricks and I worked my butt off to try and get on. And I think I might have found a number of workarounds that are less than normal. But this is good. So
All right.
today, I think I saw that today's finance.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Just want to make sure that in my lack of sleep and pain, my shoulder and my neck are really messed up. So I apologize for the cognitive decline from that. On top of the frustration of my laptop, I wasn't sure if I saw the wrong one. But good news is this whole thing gave me the perfect topic to talk about when it comes to finance, because brand new laptop is like $2,000,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't, not that I can't spend $2,000. I really don't find that it's useful to spend money on brand new shiny things when you have other things that work just fine. Granted, they did deprecate the device, but everything works.
So,
Software.
yeah. So, not completely like you'll probably get to this, but it's that idea of like life is going to happen and you can't always control the things. You know what I mean? Like sure, you could do maintenance or whatever, but like sometimes it happens.
Right.
Not that you aren't prepared, not that you don't have it. It's just like, oh my God, really? Like that's not the thing I wanted to spend a chunk of money on.
Yeah. And it's always the reality that the things that we don't want to spend money on come in the most inopportune times when it is the most inconvenient that it could possibly be. For instance, I just bought a new car. I was waffling on adding a new car payment because I haven't had car payment for 3 years. But I needed something to travel a little bit more reliably, something that I wasn't under all the time working on. So I made the call to invest in a new vehicle. And then, of course, that's one price. And then a laptop would be another price. And it happened right after my payment started. Right. So this would be the first month that my payments for the car happened. And now my laptop's a piece of crap. Not that it's a piece of crap, but it's no longer functioning in its most optimal. And so last night I was really frustrated. Last night I was like, F it, I'm getting a credit card. I'm putting myself in debt for this. I can afford it. And so the topic that I wanted to talk about today, especially around finance, is like the American way and the American financial system is contingent and based upon taking on recurring revolving debt. And the reason for that is because whether you guys know or understand how the financial sector works, but basically what a bank is it's an investment hedge fund. That's what a bank really is. They hold on to your money, but they're not actually holding on to it. You see it, you have access to it, it's virtual, but what they're really doing is they're taking that money and they're taking a loan against that what's the word I'm looking for?
Capital?
No, it's a type of debt. What is it?
Unsecured?
Secured debt.
Okay.
You said the right words. I got me. It's secured debt because what they're saying is, hey, look at all this money we have in our bank. You know we can cover this loan that you're going to give us because look at all this money that these other people have given us. And so the reality is that a bank takes your money, and while you see it active and available in your portal, what they do with it is they go and they invest it so that the company makes money. Ironically, Starbucks is the same way. So Starbucks is no longer a coffee shop. With the release of their mobile app, Starbucks is actually a bank now. Because what they do is they have you preload your money, save it, put it in a checking account into your Starbucks account. Now, what that means is that that money can only be spent at Starbucks, which means it's their money. Whether you spend it today or that you spend it 12 years from now, it's their money that you've given it to them. That's their money to have, and you're going to spend it with them. So what they do is they turn around and they say, listen, we have, for simple math, we have 100 users with $100 in our app. So we need $10,000 of secured credit based against that. And we take that 10,000, we put it into a hedge fund, and we put it in different places. And we hope that with the market fluctuations, we multiply our money. So Starbucks then becomes a bank of sorts, because they store money, then they take that money out against a secured credit line, and then they go and invest that money, and then they put it back into the business as either upgrades or, overhead costs, or, employee benefit packages, whatever it is. And so that also helps them save on taxes and things like that. So when you realize that that's what banks are doing, you realize that you're basically the victim of the Ponzi scheme, right? Give us your money and we promise we'll hold it, but we're not really holding it. We're going to put it over here. Now, to give a little history lesson, 1920s, 2008, and then most recently, a couple of weeks ago, we had 5 of the largest banks shut down and have to get bailed out by the government. Why? Why does that happen? Why do banks go under when they have all that money? What happens is people's faith and trust in the banks get shaken, and they do what's called a run on the bank. Well, again, you got to realize the bank doesn't physically have your money. They took your money. They told you, hey, we promise that we'll keep your money. But what they really do is they're like promising on this side, and then on the other side, they take that money physically and they go spend it somewhere else, in the hopes they're taking a calculated risk that you're not going to show up one day and be like, all right, give me all my money. Now, what ends up happening is a run on the banks means that enough people lost enough faith and trust in their particular bank that they all went to the bank within a certain amount of time where they couldn't cover the losses. And they said, give me all my money. I'm withdrawing all my money. Well, again, remember, they put it in investments, so they don't have it liquid for you to go and get your money. So they're playing this risk calculation game of like, well, we make you happy enough to keep your money here so that you never realize that we actually don't have it. We send it over here. And so what ends up happening when you're using a debit card and when this cashless society that they're really pushing now, that's what they're really hoping for, is cashless society, because one of two things. One, social credit system. They can actually, like, if they don't like what you're doing, they just take all your money, right? The federal government has been doing this for years with frozen assets, where if it's a digital asset, they'll freeze it so you don't have access to it. They do that for a number of reasons. And so they do the same thing with countries, which is, again, we're talking finances here, the BCRI, which is the new currency on the world platform that we're moving to, or that a lot of countries are moving to. I think they're up to like 14 now. Countries are moving to the BCRI. What that means is, historically, the United States has maintained a position of power and the ability to stay out of physical violent conflict by instituting sanctions on other countries. Basically, this means like, hey, we're going to freeze your assets because we're the big dog on campus. We have all your money. We're going to freeze your assets. So if you want to eat, you want to be able to spend money, you want your currency to be worth anything, you have to have our blessing. So they've been doing that to countries for at least 20, 30 years. Probably longer, actually. Probably closer to 60 years. Now they're saying, let's bring that down to the citizen level. Now with the citizens, we're like, listen, you're no longer allowed to do whatever you want. Your freedoms are nullified, because without money, you have no ability to be free and sovereign. And therefore, we control your money, so we control you. So that's the scary part of this cashless society that they're pushing, the federal branch chain cashless. I forget what it's called, like Fed whatever. But that's the scary part. So when you're looking at like debt, right? To circle back to what I was talking about, debt should not be entered into lightly, as much as America will let you believe. And I believe this in my 20s because I took it hook, line, and sinker. We'll give 18-year-olds $100,000 of unsecured debt and wonder why they want free education, mostly because it's a Ponzi scheme, and we know that they are going to be on the hook for years and there's nothing they can do about it. and the government gets a kickback. That's why they have federal loans, unsecured loans, because they're like, hey, we're the federal government. So if you default on us, we're just going to come and take all your shit. And so credit card debt, one of the things that a lot of people don't realize about credit card debt is the free percent APR that a lot of people are like, yeah, like just like cash. It's not just like cash. What ends up happening is they'll give you 6 months to pay it off, and then they'll set your minimum payment to make sure you miss that 6 months. So if you actually do the math, right, with transaction fees, monthly recurring fees, admin fees, whatever their shicey stuff that they want to put on you, right? And actually, hold on, I just realized that I'm still streaming over on Twitch. That would explain why my computer's going super slow. So the reality is, right, that the debt that they're talking about that's like cash is, they say if you pay X amount of dollars and pay it off within 6 months, say your original payment is $1,000 to keep it simple, and you don't keep an eye on that APR, that monthly recurring interest. Monthly recurring interest happens every month, which means at $1,000, if at $1,000 you have, say, a 25% interest, that means 25% of $1,000, which is $250. So every month you're adding, first month, $1,000 becomes $1,250. Second month, $1,250 becomes 25 of $1,250, which I'm not that great at math, and it stacks, right? So say it goes to 1,500, and then it goes to 3,000, and then it goes to 6,000, right? So this is how people get stuck into debt cycles, into holes, because they don't realize the metric that they use to pay something off. So when you're deciding to get into debt, there's three things that I would recommend you understand. One, shiny penny syndrome. Brand new novelty items, things that we think are luxurious, trying to act rich to going broke to act rich, right? Like that whole concept. Brand new laptop sounded great. I'm online, I'm looking at it, I can afford that. This is great, blah, blah, blah. It's all shiny and new. And I fell into the trap. I like tech. I love tech. I like new things. I'm human. We all have our own things, right? Like I like feeling like I bought something new, right? Same thing with my car. I thought about going and buying a brand new car because it was nice and shiny and new, and I was the only owner and all this stuff. But the reality is, the benefit of buying new of a car, especially, is it depreciates nearly 25% the minute you drive it off the lot. Which means if I bought a car that at, say, $20,000 brand new, which is unheard of right now. I'm using a very simplistic, simple mathematician because I'm not good at math. If I bought a $20,000 car, drove it off the lot, got 3 miles down the road, it's now worth $15,000. That is a depreciating asset, which means that debt is not making you money, right? And so when you're looking at tech, especially luxury items such as laptops, phones, you have to audit not just against the cost of the phone, but is it going to make you money or is it going to lose you money, right? A laptop, I do all my work on my laptop. I texted the team. I was like, yo, huge delay. I can't work. Nothing's working. I got to figure this out. I don't know if we're going to get this program out in time, blah, 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 blah. That means that that's a cash restriction. That's a productivity restriction. That means that investment would be worth it theoretically, because a brand new laptop would mean it may be faster, may have more productivity tools. I'll be able to get back to work quicker. If I can get it overnight, then I can get back in the game. I can keep working. That's how you audit that investment. Not, oh, it's shiny and it's new and I like it, and it's the prettiest thing on the market. And that is how you get yourself broke. So that's number one. When you're auditing your debt, make sure it's an asset debt. And I forgot to define these terms. Like, your asset debt is debt that makes you money. Your liability debt is debt that depreciates very quickly, or you lose money, or it makes no money, right? And this is why, like, I've gotten into discussions. I think we did a call on this before. It's like, owning a home is technically a liability unless you leverage it to refinance, unless you leverage it to invest. If you buy a home, pay your 30-year fixed mortgage, and just sit on it, that is a liability debt because you're not doing anything with it. Yeah, it's yours. like that's great, but from a finance perspective, it's a liability debt because that house is going to probably more than likely, especially depending on the housing market, it's extremely volatile. You have no idea if it's going to appreciate or depreciate. And even if it does appreciate in value, if you do not take a refinance mortgage or you do not go and pull a loan, a secured loan against that equity on that house, then it doesn't serve you. You're just paying money to have a thing. And that's where a lot of people get stuck, is they pay money to have a thing. They don't think about, is it a liability thing or is it an asset thing, right? Your phone, like after last night, I couldn't justify buying a brand new laptop. This laptop works. I'm a tech guy. I'll figure it out. But my phone has been broken for 8 months. I've had a cracked lens on my camera, and now the thing hasn't charged for 3 months. Like I have to wiggle it and do all this stuff. It's $11 a month for me to buy a new phone. I'm ready for upgrade. It still took me 4 months after it stopped charging to make the call that it's an investment to get this back up and running. Why? Because I lose probably 1/4 of my day putting it back on the charger where I could have been productive because it's not fully charged every night because it's got damage on the back. And so even with that call of like, okay, it is an investment, can I still function as is right now? And in my mind, I'm like, yeah, for 4 months, I completely said, yes, I can function productively for 4 months. But now I'm charging it 4, 5, 6 times a day. I look at screen time, right? If I'm doom scrolling on Instagram and my screen time goes up, that's a lack of productivity. But on the flip side, because I'm charging so much, last week my screen time went down 48%, which means I'm not touching my phone for more than half the day now because it's charging. Now it's an investment conversation. Now we're hitting the point of diminishing returns to where the issues outweigh the investment or the risk of the debt, because I'm now losing productivity time on the tool that I have that I've used for this. And so identifying whether or not the debt that you're entering into is asset or liability, that is super critical. Don't just look at, oh, it's fancy and it's fine and whatever. 2, look at it from the position of, even if it's an asset, right? You really should be avoiding all liability debt. The only time you should be taking on liability debt is if you're trying to just pay it off that next month. And maybe instead of paying it in one bulk sum, you pay it in 2 or 3, right? To where there's no possible way you're going to hit that APR piece. And that was one thing that I forgot to say that I was going to tell you, like that whole cashless thing. What ends up happening is they reduce your payments, or they set your amortization to be close, but not quite enough to pay it off in time. And then what happens is, I mentioned that every month it does the APR, the 20% APR on that month's balance, right? So if it went from 1,000 to 1,250, that next month it's going to do 20% of 1,250, not 1,000. What ends up happening is, if you're paying your payments and you get to the end of that year or that 6 months or whatever their cash, just like cash plan is, if you don't get every cent paid off by that 6 months, which you won't if you follow their minimum payments, they take the interest for the entirety of the 6 months and they balloon payment on the end of it. And here's the rub, and this is how they keep you in revolving debt. Again, remember, every month, even if you paid, you're getting that, it's adding that in the back end. And it's putting it in a piggy bank for them. And they're like, hey, you better pay it off, or this piggy bank's going to fall on your head. This piggy bank is sitting back there, ready to balloon up on you and land on your payment. So then what ends up happening is you don't pay it off in 6 months. That just like cash, you had something come up, or you didn't prioritize it or whatever. And then that piggy bank of 20% interest month over month shows up on your bill at the end of that 6 months. So say the original item was like $1,000. Now you're paying $3,200. Now your bill's $3,200. And that's what's left. That's what's left after your payments. You see, because that interest added it on. Now here's the other thing that they do. Now you're still on the hook to pay them off. but that 20% interest is still accruing month over month. So you have a bigger payment than you planned. You got all this interest, and now it's just compounding, and then you're just quicksanding into debt. That's the problem with liability debt. With asset debt, if that was the case, right? Say you did put $1,000 on a 20% credit card for 6 months, but that was to buy, we'll make it simple, make it easy. You spent that $1,000 to buy a machine that allows you to make a product. And then each product sells for $100. And that machine allows you to make 20 products a week. Well, so at 4 weeks, you got 80 products. Each product is $100. All right, so you just made 8,000 in that month, and it cost you 1,000 for that product. That's an asset debt. But you got to know you're going to make that money. So when I look at my laptop, and I'm going to take this back to my example from last night, when I look back at my laptop, would it be a great productivity tool? Absolutely. Would it be a great investment long term? The last laptop lasted me 9 years. But then potentially this laptop will last me another 9 years as well. I trust the brand. I trust the way that I use my devices. I'm well versed in keeping the maintenance up. So would it be an investment in reliability? 100%. But then it got to the point of like, how competent or how confident am I that paying for a $2,000 laptop will result in $2,000 in extra income to pay that off? And at that point, I was like, well, I'm trying to build a community. I'm not really charging anybody for my services right now. I'm not really out there looking to sell a product because I just want to connect with people and see the world change, which is what we're doing here, right? Well, then by that regard, the first two, yes, it's an asset. Yes, it's productivity. Yes, it's an investment. But I'm not confident that I'm going to get to a point where I feel comfortable saying, hey, give me $2,000 in some, some setup, whether it's $10 with 200 people or whatever, right? Give me $2,000 to pay this off. I'm not confident in that. And then the fourth thing came in. How resourceful am I to be able to make this work without incurring new debt? Right? My phone, $11 a month. Laptop, $180 a month. Can I do the same thing on my phone? Give or take. It's not the most ergonomically friendly. It's definitely not the most productive. Takes a little bit longer. It's a little bit harder on my hands, but could I do it? Absolutely. One of the things that I'm having a hard time with right now, I'm building trainings and the app crashes like every 30 seconds because it needs an update. Can't get the update, but it saves everything. So it crashes, reopens itself. So I just got to wait for a couple of seconds and I can get back onto it. Next problem, I can't export. But it saves everything. Goes to my phone. So now my phone can be my export machine. Okay. So yeah, I can build it on the laptop. It takes a little bit of pliability with my patience. But then the other problem where they're like, hey, you can't export, you can't access this off the system until you update. I'm like, yeah, but this hasn't deprecated yet. And now I can afford a brand new one of these for $11. I mean, it's $1,000, but it's $11 a month, right? Now we're talking about the risk versus gain. My risk of $11 a month, I'm going to need a phone no matter what. Eventually, the thing's not going to charge at all. Right now, I can get it to charge. The laptop, same thing. But the laptop just started having problems. The phone started having problems 6 months ago, 8 months ago, whatever it was. It makes more sense for me to take on the debt of the phone than it does for the laptop. And to put this in terms of like what society sees, it makes more sense to go into debt for a business idea or decision that will make you money than the new Gucci slippers, the new Louis Vuitton belts, the new Jordans, a brand new car, improving your, gym memberships, eating out all the time, whatever your priorities are, whatever makes more sense. The reality is those 3 to 4 things you need to really look at. Is it an asset or a liability? Is it going to make me money? Is it going to get me to a point where I'm increasing my productivity? Does the longevity hold weight long term? Am I able to get it paid off as fast as I think I am? Worst case scenario. And is this something that I can do without? Or am I just, and can I do without it? And I'm just looking at it from a shiny penny perspective. It's like, it's a brand new shiny thing, which society drives us to, right? Like, I think it's like every 3 seconds we're being presented with new pieces of sales information, right? Buy this new weight loss thing, buy this new idea, buy this new program, buy this new. It's one of the reasons we're making this upcoming program free. It's like everybody has a program. Everybody's special. Everybody can tell you how to live your life. Everybody's got the magic pill. Everybody's got the fucking silver bullet, which is a military joke. Everybody's got all these things, newfangled things about how to do things. But if you look at the core foundation of everything, everybody's doing the same shit with just different flavor, right? That guy's doing it with green font, whereas the other guy's doing it with white font. That guy's doing it with, wingdings, and the other guy's doing it with Helvetica. Like it's the same crap, it's just their spin. And it's no different for us. It's our personal spin. We have a little bit different of a thing that we want to see people move forward with. And for us, we want to be able to control that experience because we believe we can add enough value and positive experience for our users and for our clients and customers in our community better than somebody else. Because we could easily go out and be like, oh, they're kind of doing what we're doing and we can kind of make it work and we can fit into that. And that's great. And we can pay them. We could shut down Heroes and we can go do that. We've talked about that. Because there's plenty of people out there that are doing stuff, something, right? But in our triumvirate, me, Tish, and Matt, we talked about it when we talk about the community. We want to own what we believe is right. We want to own the foundation and the baseline. So what that means is we're investing our time, our energy, our money into creating something that is a little bit different flavor than somebody else, but we're doing it the right way for our character, for our moral principles. And that's the difference. We look at you guys and we're like, hey, we could easily like make you spend $20,000 to come have Matt yell at you for fucking 3 days. Like that's something we could do. Is it viable? Not long term. It'll be something to do. It's an experience, right? But internally, the three of us are like, yeah, but that's not really what we're about. We're about the community. We're about building the tribe. We want to see long-term implications, not short-term benefit. And so when you're looking at the stuff that you're putting debt to and you've figured out if it's asset or liability, you've looked at the long-term implications of it, you really gotta understand these things. Like some of the lessons I just taught you, like how does APR hit? How does that stack up? What happens when you don't meet it? Are your payments enough? Right? Because there's a reason they call them minimum payments. It's not minimum to hit the goal. Okay, it's minimum that they will accept to keep you in terms. And the reason they'll accept that is because it's just enough for them to keep money in their pocket and just low enough for you to hit that in where they're going to get a big balloon payment at the end of it. That's the difference. Stay knowledgeable. Don't be naive about this. Don't be rash about this. Apply logic. Tish posted a thing in the announcements one day, and it rings true here. Wait 24 hours. Before you make any big purchases, give it 24 hours. Sit on it. Think on it. Because for me, I have ups and downs. When I get frustrated or I feel burnt out or I feel like I'm failing based on a mechanism internally for me, part of that is spending money for me. Because part of that is like, oh, that's a measurement of my success. Having things is a measurement of my success. And then back in the day, it was like 24, 48, 72 hours I had to wait before that cleared. Now it's like 20 minutes and I'm like, all right, I got through my little pity party rant bullshit. Now I'm like, okay, now here's the logic, right? And you get faster at it and you can work through those things quicker, but give yourself the time, whatever that is for you. 24 hours is a good little starter, but if you hit that into that 24 hours and you haven't done any of those audit systems and you haven't really given yourself a good validation and vindication as to why that purchase is necessary, well, I like it because it's shiny, is still the only thing you got, then give it another 24 hours. Until you can sit down and look at it and say, okay, is this asset or liability? Do I understand how much I'm paying out? Do I understand what happens when I get to the end and I don't pay it off? Am I willing to take that on? Am I going to be making money? Is this an investment in reliability, long-term productivity? If the answer is no to any of those things, don't buy nothing. Because cash in your hand is far greater than debt on a book. Like that's just a reality of like, there's a Kevin Hart skit where he talks about his savings and his checkings. And he talks about how he's got the money, but the way his checking and his savings is set up, it takes a couple of days to move the money around. And he's joking because he's hanging out with people that they got money better than him. And he's trying to act cool and rich, but he doesn't want to tell him I ain't got money like that. We need to take that on earnestly, not as a joke. Like it's something I had a hard time learning. Like I tell people I'm broke now when I'm not broke, because back in the day I was trying to show off and I'd spend all my money. And then I'd actually be broke. And I'd feel bad. And I'd be like, why am I so broke? Well, because you're spending stupid shit on stupid shit. So now just, when it comes to finances, big part of our sovereignty comes in our ability to be resourceful. And when we can't be resourceful, know we have enough money to handle whatever happens, because it never comes at a convenient time. Things go sideways quickly. All right, I'll open it up to any other thoughts. Or
I think that a really good point to kind of go back over is the idea of how do you have a debt that incurred, and how do you make sure not just shiny penny, but like, is it going to be worth it? And then also, can I do a workaround in the meantime? Not everybody has the ability to, like, I liked your example with the laptop and the phone, right? Yes, it's inconvenient. I have a really old laptop too, and I'm not smart enough to know how to fix it, but I am doing the same kind of workarounds of like, okay, well, this laptop doesn't do as much of stuff or whatever, but the phone does it. So it's super small, but I can see it and whatever. So again, it's that piece of like, okay, well, a car, let's say your car is breaking down and you don't know how to fix it, but can you do something workaround? Can you do a carpool? Can you do a whatever? Can you buy yourself some time so that you could save up some money and not have to take such a big debt? Or, because you could just buy it off in cash and for a car and not have to finance something. But I think that's a really good point that people don't necessarily think about, is like, oh, well, the thing broke, the washer broke or whatever. Okay, well, how much is it versus like saving up some quarters and going down to the laundromat, versus getting in debt and doing it that way. I think a funny piece too, talking about credit cards, Home Depot is notorious for this. Home Depot will let you have a credit card. Do the credit card, find your thing. How much is your limit? I don't know. What's in your cart? Well, there's your limit, right? So they kind of like entice you that way. And then as soon as you have a credit card, if you really know, they'll let you take out like 3 or 4, and honestly, I think it's 6, but 3 or 4 credit cards. Like, oh, this credit card is maxed out because you bought it for this project and that was the debt and that's the balance and you're paying it off, you're $25 a month or whatever. Well, you're eligible for another credit card if you like. Well, how much is that limit? What's in your cart? So people
what
could
can we get you
really
on today, right now? Because
right.
money in
What
their hand
project are
right
you
now
working
is
on?
better.
Right. Let's get everything you need for that project and then open up a credit card. So so it really is kind of crazy how fast we put ourselves into debt and don't think about it, right? Because it's super easy. Oh my gosh, I got approved. That's amazing. Let me go, and you feel good. And then the next month when the payments start hitting, you're like, whoo. And then percentages rates pick in, and then you're like, wow, how did that get so expensive so fast? And you're like, it was only supposed to be $25 a month. Well, now it's like $125 a month, and that's beyond your budget or whatever, But I really like the workaround with the phone piece of, you could have a $128 a month payment, or for now, you could have an $11 a month payment and be saving that difference. If you really wanted to put it, if you really were being good financials, you're like, okay, I can afford $128 a month payment. I'm only going to pay 11. So that gives me $110 that I would have been willing to pay. Let me put that $110 in a bucket somewhere safe, tucked away in a savings account, whatever, each month until then I'm ready. Well, what is that? That's 10 months. And you have a whole laptop payment to buy, a whole laptop bucket of money to buy a laptop without having to finance it.
Yeah, like the example that I had, if it's 110, like it was 187 for the laptop, right?
Mhm.
So I minus that $11 and we'll say 12 just for like whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm if I was gonna pay 185, 187, and now I'm paying 12, I can split the difference and I can save 175. And
Right.
if I save that for 6 months, that's $1,000. That's half the price of the laptop.
Right.
Right there. Right.
And who knows?
And you have the
maybe
new
that
thing over here. So you don't even, if your thing is like shiny penny, right? Then you get the little fix, the little dopamine hit of the shiny penny,
Right.
while staying productive, while moving over to saving into the 1,000. Then if you expand that out to the 10 months, right? Well, we'll say we'll go to a whole year, from 6 months to a year. You multiply that by 2. Now you have the entire laptop plus some change. You have $2,100
Right.
just chilling there. And now, and this is the other thing that I wanted to say about the resourcefulness, right? If you were to do it this way, the likelihood you're going to hit doing it this way, a point of diminishing returns, is much, much lower. Point of diminishing returns means that the time that you're spending due to ineffective productivity because of a tool problem or whatever is outweighing the actual cost of whatever you're buying. That's a diminishing return, right? That's a point of diminishing return. So for example, if it takes me 3 hours with the current product to do a task that if I bought this product would save me an hour, then it's like, how much is your hourly rate? Well, then that's your diminishing return, right? Hourly rate times or divided by whatever you're spending or multiplied by whatever you're spending to do the job currently. That's your point of diminishing return. Once it gets above what your hourly rate is, you're spending more money than it is to just go and get it done, right? A classic story that I've heard, anecdote that I heard of a speaker on stage is he had a guy he was a manager or something, and he needed to set up a printer, and he had an IT guy, but the IT guy was going to charge him $150 to set up the printer. And so he said, no, I can figure it out. I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to set up this printer. And so 3 days later, he spent like 3 to 4 hours a day trying to get this printer set up, still not set up. So his buddy's like, he calls his buddy, he's like, hey man, I'm really frustrated. Like, I don't know what to do. And he's like, well, I thought you said you had a guy that, he's like, yeah, but I don't want to spend 150. He's like, okay, well, what day is it that you've been working on this? He's like, 3. He's like, how many hours a day? He's like, 3 or 4. He's like, we'll go with 3, even on the low end. That's 9 hours. What's your hourly rate? The guy's like, my hourly rate's $250. He's like, so because you didn't want to spend $150 to have this kid do it, you spent the equivalent of 250 times 9, right? Which
To
is
not have it done.
$2,250. So you wasted $2,100 just because you didn't want to spend the 150. Point of diminishing returns. Different mindset, right? And then to that point of like resourcefulness, like if you can get away with that and you are willing to save for that, then the thing is, you're now paying the full value of what the thing is worth to you, rather than what you're being forced to pay for it above and beyond what it's worth, right? One of the reasons I was a little hesitant to go buy a car or a truck right now, because I wanted a truck, is the market. These cars 3 years ago would have cost me 12 grand. Now they're 25. Right? Same car, same mileage, same issues. 12, 25. Why? Because inventory is low. So the value of the car, which in my mind is still $12,000, the market says it's 25. Right? And so that's kind of what happens with debt, is like you're going in saying, hey, I want to pay $1,000 for this item. And they're saying, yeah, as long as you pay it off in 6 months. You miss the 6 months. Now, instead of paying $1,000, you've accrued enough interest to pay $2,100, $2,500. So now it's more than double what you originally valued it at, because you didn't do the work up front to identify the diminishing returns, whether or not it's an asset. You didn't pay it off in time. You didn't realize that minimum payments are not going to get you to the end goal. Like, put some thought behind everything and give it that time. Give it that 24 hours.
Cool.
All right. Well, now I'm kind of awake, and I appreciate that.
Shoulder's still sore.
Yeah. I'm like all up here.
I know. Yeah.
I'm like, I'm really not trying to flex and be cool, guys. It's really tense. So if you guys have any questions, throw it in the portal, in the finance pillar. Reach out and DM either Tish or myself. Tish is our CFO. She can help you. I got to get better at putting these calls up on the portal, because I think we're like 4 behind right now. So I'll get those done this weekend. Cool. Through my phone, because my laptop.
Right. Whatever works. Go to the library, borrow the computer. You can get an hour for free, and then you can make it work.
See, I'm smart enough, or at least not smart enough, maybe is not the right idea, but I was wise enough because I've had problems in the past with my laptops that I put everything on an external drive. So
Ah, there you go.
theoretically, I could just take that drive to any computer that has access and upload,
Right. Right.
you know, as long as I don't want to edit it. And I don't really edit the weekly calls anyway. So
Yeah.
So other than that, you know, one of the things that we're working on right now is a program for men, and I'm kind of dripping a little bit here because I'm excited for it, and it's not ready yet. Obviously, as I mentioned early on, there's a number of trainings that I still have to get done, and the laptop could not have been more inconvenient. But it's specifically for men, and it's to give men kind of their power back, and build a world around real men again. You know, real men of genius, which makes me laugh at the Bud Light thing going on. Because Budweiser had the real men of genius ads in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s. And that's kind of what we were trying to get back to. Maybe not beer, but we're figuring out all of the intricacies there so that we can deliver something that is poignant enough to stick with you, and productive enough for that the men can be worth knowing. And I think that gets overlooked a lot when it comes to self-respect, dignity, and honoring ourselves as men. Is you got to be somebody worth knowing. And I think as a society, we've stopped teaching men that that's important. And I think that this program is definitely going to offer a lot of tools in that regard. So really develop yourself as a leader, develop yourself as a man, and really make you know, men again, and honor their women and children. And I'm really excited to see what comes out of it, because I'm trying not to show too much. So excited, you guys. You can't
I'll
tell
say
because I
too,
can't
like,
sleep, but
right.
I am so like the fact that I'm able to get this excited about it is impressive, because I haven't slept in like 3-4 days. But I am really excited for it because Matt, myself, and Tish have really put together something that's going to be really special, and the long-term implications and community and tribe that we're going to be able to build out of it. I really believe is going to be what Heroes becomes known for. It's really coming together, and I'm really excited for it. Sorry, I cut you.
Yeah, that's okay. I was going to say, like, I'm super excited. Yes, it's a men's only program, but I'm super excited for the idea of, as the woman's side, like, actually being able to see men not just have an experience and like a weekend's training or whatever, but actually have some tools to move forward in life with, and that's the piece of, like, we want our men to, like, be leaders moving forward, not just leaders for today. What's tomorrow? I want you to lead me into tomorrow. And that's what I think this program really offers, is the chance for men to understand, not just, finding themselves, and that's the man aspect piece, but, like, how do you lead your woman into tomorrow? How do you get them to not just follow, like, it's not a lead and follow kind of thing, but, like, how do you lead them, lead the family, lead the woman,
But
lead the family
it kind of is,
into.
right? Like it's earning that right. Because it's an earned attribute, right?
Mhm.
Like women are, unfortunately, because of the realm that we're in now, they've been taught that they have to be the leader, and they're ill-equipped for it. And the reason they're ill-equipped for it, and I know I get a lot of women that are like, egotistical about this. They're ill-equipped for it because of their compassion, because it makes them more equipped for building communities and connection and compassion and empathy. That if you're too strong emotionally, being a leader is very difficult, because you have to balance this dichotomy. And I'm kind of dipping into the program a little bit here, but you have to balance this dichotomy of knowing when to be compassionate and when to have that tough line of, like, this is the mission. No matter how you feel about it, if you don't do this, we don't eat, we don't have this, we don't have this. Women are ill-equipped for that experience, and it becomes very rattling for them when they first do it. And so that's why you see women get this kind of bad moniker of being bitchy or too hard or controlling or whatever. It's because that they're leading from a place of fear, and that's what creates control. Men are more equipped for leading from a place of logic. Not saying that women are not capable of logic. That's what I'm saying.
There's all, yeah, none of those side things that some of the naysayers are jumping into right now, thinking about. It's none of that. It's the actual piece of like, women want leadership. We want our men to lead us. That's why we're with a man, right?
Yeah.
So, and we do. We're gonna lead with emotion. We're gonna. I can do this thing. I was joking with somebody the other day about personal safety in an outdoor environment. And we're like, yeah, that's great. Well, I can do it. I've got mace. Okay, well, I've got a taser. Okay, well, I got a bat in my hand. Okay, and then we were like, well, if it gets taken from us, we can do this. Okay, or do we really just want a man next to us that's going to do that for us? Like we really do. We're all cool and like joking and kumbaya of like we've got all these tools, but really, ultimately, it's going to be a man that's going to attack us, and it's going to be a man that we want to protect us.
And beyond
So
that, the likelihood that a man is going to attack when there's a presence of a masculine man is considerably lower.
way less.
All of the things
Absolutely.
you guys are talking about are completely circumvented by just placing
A man.
a man with the right energy,
Yeah.
right? Which is what
Mm.
Matt and I like to call real men, because there's an energy that comes off of a guy that can handle
Right.
this. Like, you won't see me walking down the street and be like, yeah, that guy's a fucking pussy. Like, I'm an imposing person and it's because I know exactly what to look for. I know how to carry myself. And I have always said that women should kind of forget where the car is parked. There's this old school mentality of like women are ditzy, right? No. When women feel safe, they offload all of the stress of situational awareness, protection, safety, navigate, like that gets all offloaded on the man because they trust his leadership. And so if he's like, hey, the car's over here, then they're like, oh, fucking car's over there, I guess, right? When we start competing egotistically rather than leaning into our strengths as men and women, because we both have strengths and weaknesses, this is where we get into these tit for tat battles, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the beauty of what we're building, to Tish's point, is I joke a little bit, right, with Matt and Tish of like, it's a dating pool for women who want real men, right? Like, we're actually garnering men into attributes that would lend itself to long-term leadership in the home. Attributes that women, whether they like to admit it or not, really seek, right? Because at the end of the day, to your point of that example, you're having all these conversations about what to do and how to do it, and what you have to do for force multipliers and how to engage an aggressive threat when you're not an aggressive person. Meanwhile, if you just planted a man there with a natural aggression level of 80%, like somebody like myself or Matt, who is ready to perceive and address a threat without hesitation, all of those other those stressors, all those other conversations, out the window. Not saying that women aren't responsible for their safety, but by putting a man in there, it reduces the likelihood that they're going to have to actually engage with it, which softens the conversation. Instead of it
softens the woman, which softens the relationship, which then makes it more, instead of that competitive he versus she, it then becomes a full circle, 100% of each other into their full he and their full she, of being a united front instead of a competitive battle internally.
And one of the things that I think that really echoes out is dignity. And I think women are really battling their own personal dignity right now, because if they want to be stay-at-home moms, they get flack. If they want to be career women, they get flack. And
if they're both, they get flack.
Yeah, if they do both,
yeah.
Like, no matter what, women are getting flack.
No matter what.
And I hear a lot of women say that this is a man's problem, and this is not a man's problem. This is women on women crying right here. This, men don't give a fuck. And the reality is, real masculine men, like, our value systems are not in what you bring to the table, in the sense of like money or career, or our value systems are, do you lean into our leadership? Do you trust us? Do you respect us? Do you give me the dignity as a man to be sovereign and say, this is the way we're going to go and be the leader? And do you give me the dignity of submitting to me and saying, hey, you got me, so that you can be soft? And that allows her to be dignified in her grace, dignified in her compassion, dignified in her emotionality, right? she can now be the well of comfort and nurturing because she's no longer trying to compete with the aggression level and competitive nature of egotistical men, right? And so we're trying to, I've always said since day one getting into the coaching space, it's all on men. And the reality is because the responsibility that women take on is a reactionary response to men failing to do the job. If men step up and do the job, women do not have to feel that they have to overcompensate for them. And so when that takes place, right, like it makes sense for a woman to have to overcompensate compassion for a man. Why? Because men are not wired for compassion. They're wired to, this is what needs to happen. Here's A, B, and C, get it done. I don't really care about your feelings. I care about the outcome. So the woman's like, he says that because he loves you. He cares about you. He's worried about your life. Like, have them overcompensate there. We should not be having men doing that. Well, mom's just having a hard day, and you know, mom really does love you. Like, that should never be, in my opinion, that should never be a thing, because that just flipped the natural strengths and weaknesses. And I've said it 1,000 times before. I'll say it 1,000 times more, probably a million times more. Women will never understand the width and breadth of aggression a man is capable to protect the people he loves. Men will never understand the width and breadth of the compassion a woman can have. Any attempt to mirror in one or the other is just, to me, it is a disrespectful caricature of those people. And they're lost, and they need guidance because they've had a lifetime of bad examples. And that's why I'm so excited for this program, because I truly believe with the three of us, because we are very, very different, but also very, very same foundationally, we're going to really come together and bring about a real model of long-term implication, not just a weekend warrior, hey, right, get yelled at and emasculated, and then you go home and return to the same habits. No, this is going to be something that we really articulate in a way that is like, if you actually want to be this person, you will have the tools and the community to get you there. Because one of the number one things people say they fail, the reasons that they fail is they lack the support.
Right.
Well, we're taking this program is going to be a subset of men, and they're going to be timed out, and they're going to have their unit. And that support system, we're going to encourage them to continue. When you screw up, you need to have a man there. When you're a man, you need to have a man there that's like, yo, the fuck, bro, you're better than this. And I'll tell you right now from experience, hearing that from a woman does not hit the same. Hearing it from a woman it's almost like a slap in the face. Hearing it from a man is more like a kick in the dick, right? And if you don't know the difference, slap in the face is disrespect. A kick in the dick is motivation. That's man speak.
Clearly, as women, we would not understand. So
that's why I'm clarifying, because men understood as soon as I said it.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and those are the things. Those are the spaces we've lost, in our search for egalitarianism. Right. And I know we're getting kind of into the family side a little bit here, but man, like this program is going to be so paramount to really making a standard for the world through heroes. I really believe that. So look forward to all
really like the idea that we're sending it out in the beginning phases here for free. So, back to the financial piece, right? Can you afford it? Yeah, you can afford it. It's going to take some of your time, but that transfer of time, of wasted time versus, efficient time towards a better longevity, like, again, is just, it brings it back to the finance piece of how can you not?
Yeah,
right?
1,000%.
Yeah. So, all right, cool.
Awesome. Well, talk soon, Tish.
Thank you.
Thanks for letting me get excited and go off on my rant about how cool that's going to be.
Enjoy fixing your computer, and you're a better person than I, because I would just throw it at the wall.
Okay, that's all I'm saying. Right? Whatever I did, we didn't drop. I didn't get an update or a crash.
There you go. Perfect.
Good sign.
Awesome. We'll talk later.
Talk soon. Bye. See you guys in the portal.